So I'm just going to start the recording straight off the back of that, and we're just going to launch straight into it. So this is a literal reaction right now of us having finished watched The Last Outpost. So welcome to Star Trek Trek. We have watched The Last Outpost from The Next Generation.
You know what?
What just happened?
Hang on. I need to. So, yep.
Yeah.
Just
where do we start? Like, we've watched, like, this is on a string of some pretty bad Star Trek Next Generation. Like, early season one is something. Real something.
Oh,
There's an awful stuff in there. This was, like, this isn't on the scale of, like, holy shit, this is just offensive, like Code of Honor. And this isn't just, like, oh my god,
I feel offended.
This isn't just Gene Roddenberry's...
yes. I'm offended.
This isn't just, like, Gene Roddenberry's wet dream, like Naked Now was. This is insane. So, I'm going to hit you with some fun facts. This was written by Richard...
Are they fun? Are they fun facts?
A little bit fun. They're written by Richard Kurzmin. This was the only thing he wrote for Star Trek.
I'm shocked.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's not over yet.
I'm shocked.
This was directed by Richard Collar. This was the only thing he directed for Star Trek. This is probably why this feels so weird. Okay, so who wants to talk about the Ferengi? The first appearance of Star Trek's potential big bads of the Next Generation moving forward. Like a load of cats on heat trying to hunt for the catnip in Riker's pocket.
Okay. I have to ask something, right? Okay, so when you are filming, right, there's a long process that goes into making a TV show.
I feel like Shai should be jumping in here and just saying, there's a master frame.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the master frame is the Ferengi going...
Yeah.
So you have your showrunner, right? You've got your team of writers, you've got your production designer, you've got your costume designer. Everyone's sat down in a big room, and they say, "Cool, we're going to break the episode. We're going to talk about it. And what's the pitch? Okay, the pitch is we're going to have this brand new big bad called the Ferengi. They're going to be all the worst aspects of 1980s humans. They're going to be capitalism unleashed. They're going to be heinously obsessed with wealth and lecherous and misogynistic, and they're going to be dishonest, and they're going to have energy whips." And then I was like, "Ooh, okay."
Ooh.
Richard, whatever the fuck, you haven't written a script for us before. Here's your big shot. Convince me the Ferengi are a threat. And so Richard, whatever the fuck his face, goes over and he writes a script, right? And he comes back in about 5 minutes, because guess what? This was written in 5 fucking minutes. And they look over it and they go, "Wow, I've never seen someone waste someone's time quite so magnificently as you. Let's put this to film. I want like 4 limp loofahs that are stretched out so that we can make energy whips. I want the cheapest, shittiest plastic crystals you can find me from Walmart. I want you to find me some talented actors who will act like shit for the least amount of money. And I want you to find me some fucking Chinese finger traps." And that man, the man who gave those marching orders, was none other than Gene Roddenberry himself. And then they sat down and they got Patrick Stewart and Jonathan Frakes and Brent Spiner and Michael Dorn and Denise Crosby and LeVar Burton and Gates McFadden, all of them to film it. And Marina Sirtis to film all this.
Yep.
And then they looked at the footage. They looked at them going... and they said, "Perfect. You've nailed it again, Roddenberry."
What a 10 out of 10 episode.
This is my vision for the utopian society in which
This is the big new bad for Star Trek, guys. This is it.
Do you remember, like, whenever a new Star Trek series comes out and people go on forums and things like that and complain endlessly, and it happened with TNG in the BBS era, I think that's more warranted. If I'd watched this for the first time, I'd have been like, this show is a piece of shit. What have they done to Star Trek? This is nothing.
Actually,
what the fuck?
No wonder that TNG was nearly cancelled.
Yeah. Like,
I'm shocked it wasn't.
Yeah.
Goldberg.
4 episodes in the bag,
Save
and only
it,
Encounter
like-
at Farpoint was the passable one. Like, come on.
Oh my
Encounter
God,
a
I
far
don't know
point
whether
with
to
the
laugh or
Orientalist
cry.
stereotypes and
Yeah.
the overacting and the bills and the freaking creepy
forget
Data's
the
lifting
racism.
children and the racism.
And
Like,
the racism.
that's the
God,
passable
so
one.
much racism.
I just
Well, okay.
I
So
don't understand it.
so it takes, for one thing, nothing really happens in this episode. It takes about
Yeah.
20 minutes before we really see a Ferengi. Like, they spend a lot of time on the bridge and then have a conference, like a lot of time, like doing not a lot, talking about things and talking about the Ferengi.
Didn't I make a joke about how the fact that nothing's happened and Picard surrendered? Like, nothing has happened. Nothing has actually happened.
The only person who tries to move the plot along is Deanna Troi, who says, "Have you tried scanning the planet?" To which they go, "That's a good idea," and then they ignore her.
And they ignore it for like 5-10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, the actual only smart trained Starfleet officer is like, maybe we should examine the environmental concerns about our scientific environment. And they're like, no, let's talk about Yankee traders and Chinese finger traps.
Yeah, what the fuck? Why was Data suddenly in the middle of a professional meeting playing with a Chinese finger trap? Where did this come from? Like,
It's like,
well, I get it.
You know, shit is serious. The ship is losing power. People might die. And Data's just like, ooh.
Yeah. I
Fingers
feel
are
like that
stuck.
whole bit was just to set up the joke, we'll send the Ferengi some Chinese finger traps, like at the end. That was all set up
Find
for
the
that.
way to make it happen.
Yeah, exactly. There was no real reason for it, apart from like, let's imagine this happening, but without really... And there was another point in that, oh yeah, the 2 boys that are in the conference room. Like, and then Riker goes, oh, boys will be boys, and they run off. No explanation, no reason, just there, just to have a couple of kids in the conference room and make the Enterprise's security look absolutely terrible.
Like
This
it
is
makes
exact.
half
That was on Odo's pad in DS9. You know when like Worf complains about security breaches on DS9,
Yes.
and Odo reaches over for that pad he's had
Like,
on his
oh,
desk for
honey.
years. Yeah, honey. And he's like, "Hey, that was not on me. That was on Yara. I wasn't security chief at that point.
Not my department.
Not my
Not my
department."
problem.
So I've got to ask
Like-
you. Oh yeah, sorry, Racing, go on. We've been talking over you this whole time.
Said it during the watch through, but I'm gonna say it again because I feel like it's a point. You know, I just feel like the Chinese finger trap shit was like, oh shit, we need some comedy in this episode to try and save it.
There's some
Hence
levity,
the finger
yeah.
traps. And then, you know, it's like if they had listened to Deanna, this episode would have been finished in 5 minutes, and it could have been an email.
Yeah.
Do you ever think
Yeah.
about the fact that the Enterprise D, the flagship of the Federation, a bastion of exploration and like the seeker of knowledge, beamed down to an undiscovered alien planet, talked to a repository of knowledge. It was a telepathic portal that could tell them all about the Takon Empire, a galactic civilization so obscure that not even Picard, no good archaeologists knew about it. And then all they did was trade Sun Tzu quotes, and then he fucked off into the smoke.
Yeah.
We spent 20 minutes faffing around and surrendering. We could have just had a conversation with the portal.
So
That would have been
yeah.
way more interesting.
Generally, a lot of Star Trek stories have a moral or some sort of point to
Yeah.
them. Because the Ferengi are set up, it's supposed to be this archetype of capitalism. Like, oh, they're like we were 200 years ago, you know, and they're supposed to sort of, in the worst
But they need
possible-
the word swap to be explained to them.
Yeah, well, I just imagine that was a breakdown of communication also. I don't know.
You're being too generous.
No, I'm trying to be.
Moral of the episode is that it should not have happened.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, what's the point? Is it the fact that like you should approach? Because even like it all brings down to Riker standing there in front of the Takon, who's quoting him Sun Tzu and proving his mettle by not facing his fears. But that doesn't reflect the rest of the episode, which is basically them just focusing on the... Like, the idea is, like, what it should have been. I see the concept of what there should have been there. They're facing this unknown enemy, and they're, like, afraid to progress. Or the story should have been, like, maybe it should have been It should have been focused on Riker and his, like, first test as being a first officer aboard Picard's Enterprise, being, like, your fears should be facing the unknown. But it's never presented like that. And it's just...
So...
Yeah.
Yeah, to further that point, right, there's this thing called theming, and I love coming back to it, because if you are telling a story, there is no element in your story that should not exist unless there is a reason for it. And especially with Star Trek, and the entire point of science fiction that involves alien species, is that you use that to extrapolate out certain qualities of the human condition and talk about them, right? That is why the Ferengi are ridiculous venture capitalists. That is why the Klingons are unbridled aggression. That is why Vulcans are stoic logicists, right? And one of my favorite examples of this is Picard Season 1, where there's not a coincidence that they use the Romulans, who are synonymous with isolationism and paranoia and mistrust, to tell a story essentially about Brexit. Like, the instant you lay it down like that, it's like, oh yeah, theming. That's what it's actually about when you think about it. Like, and the thing is, if you do it subtly enough, you don't even quite realize. Like, I said that, and you're like, oh yeah, that does make sense. And you're like, but it never occurred to you because it's just part of the tapestry. It's theming. It's all part of the wider tapestry. But here, like Idol said, you have venture capitalist enemy Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu wasn't concerned with economics. He was concerned with tactics and the military. If you were going to use this framing device of the portal and the Khan Empire, why don't you use the fucking Klingons? Does that not make more sense?
I think there's two things at odds here. There's the writer and there's Gene Roddenberry. And I think the Gene Roddenberry is the one that came in with, like, we're going to have this big bad enemy. Then when they're going to be this design that I've come up with, and then you've got to have a story about facing your fears, but then the writer was so inept that he actually couldn't write that. And just couldn't get it out there. And then they made the Ferengi such a fuck up that they had to completely retool them and make them essentially comic relief. And then give them depth in DS9.
Yeah, because DS9 actually bothers. I pray. I wake up every morning. I'm like, oh yeah, DS9 happened. Oh, it's gonna be a good day.
It's like, oh, thank God, DS9 still happened.
It still exists. Thank God.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I boggle at the thought that you're wasting time with these scenes on the Enterprise of everyone thinking they're gonna die in their sleep from the cold, and Wesley should have the right to die as a 16-year-old of the cold without sedation. Like,
that was so weird. And then Crusher comes up as such a masculine thing to say.
Traps.
And then Picard dismisses her, and it's such a weirdly out of tonal context conversation.
Like, he should face death like a man. It's like
Mima on the surface.
Even when you put that, like, even before you put that into context of Wesley's story of how Wesley's father died as an infant.
Yeah, you can tell an interesting story with that.
Dude. Leave the room. You've said that to his mother.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Like, where is your forget about the lack of ambient temperature. Where's your human warmth?
Slapped him outright. Just been like, fuck you.
Yeah, his character. Everyone's characterization is just out the fucking window in this episode. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. Oh.
Yeah. So,
Idol, get us out of here. Get us to the next part of the segment so we can stop talking about this goddamn episode.
Do you want to do best and worst moments? You've got to have Racing.
Going first. I'm going first. No, fuck it. I'm going first.
No. Racing is our guest, we've been talking over the whole episode. Racing, please, your moment to shine. Your moment to shine. I'm overruling. Your moment to shine. What was your best and your worst moment?
Just hold it in. I'll be brief.
Yeah.
Okay, so... best bit of the entire episode. Well, there's two best bits actually. It's Deanna having the entire ship's brain cell. The whole episode.
Yeah.
You can hold the thinking
Again,
stick.
It's like if we just listened to Deanna Troy, that would be lovely. But also, there was a really lovely extra that had really pretty hair.
Yes. She had great hair.
Like a kind of gold braid in it, yeah.
Like, she had this braid with gold woven into it, and it was so beautiful. And I'm like, oh man, I love that, like, in the future, women can wear their hair like that at work and look gorgeous. So that was my best bit.
Yeah.
Worst
Damn
bit.
it, both of mine.
Everything else. It was like... But especially, I think if I had to pick, like, a worst of the worst, it's the Ferengi.
Yeah.
All right,
so well considered.
No, sorry.
Like we have been laughing about it this whole time, but when you the humor out of it, like, it is bad, and it's the fact that this followed on from Code of Honor, where it's stereotypical.
Yeah.
You have whatever this was, like, it's not. Like, it's like if you were a person of color watching this at home, you'd be like, oh, so you just hate the non-white people, huh?
It does feel like I do look at them doing their weird hand gesticulations. And I'm like, I feel like I'm meant to be offended, but I'm not sure what race for.
Yes. Someone's being emulated here.
Everyone?
Maybe everyone. Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like someone went and saw.
God.
Well, we commented on this in the watch through, but they've been seeing Cats, and like this is just the discount performance of it. Like Andrew Lloyd Webber's just come and given stage direction from what he thinks his show's about.
Not AliExpress Cats. Goddamn. Okay. Best. You're gonna drag it out of me. Fuck. Okay, I got it. It's the little look that Picard gives Data when he says nothing to write home about, and like when he's using that weird slang, because Patrick Stewart does his.
He just looks at him and just like, what the fuck, Data? What are you on about?
Yeah, like there's in a different episode where you'll have a running joke about Data using weird slang like that, and it makes sense, and it comes from somewhere, because right, all of Data's weird little quirks are meant to come from somewhere. Someone mentions Sherlock Holmes or Dixon Hill, that leads to a fucking 7-season-long obsession. Someone should have mentioned Chinese finger traps or slang. I mean, I guess Yankee Traders, but that doesn't really link. But yeah, it's purely that bit of acting from Patrick Stewart and also from Jonathan Frakes when he does the same thing with the crystals, where he's like, nothing to write home about. Data, like, and he just has to tap him on the shoulder and go like that, like. Yeah. And
Focus,
LeVar Burton for doing his best. I love LeVar Burton. He's doing his best.
Data does seem very
trying.
Attention to deficit in this episode. He seems like he's like a child that's easily distracted by saying, "Oh, what's this?" And like,
Yeah,
Ooh,
shiny.
flamingo.
Yeah, shiny. Ooh, yeah.
Love flamingo.
Yeah. There's lots of flamingos. Worst God. I'm really trying to. Okay. I think it has to be. No. I just keep on going through it in my brain like there's so much to process.
There's that.
Fuck.
Yeah. You may only pick one.
Okay. It's the stupid TOS style ending with the let's send them a box of Chinese finger traps. Like,
yeah.
If you wanted the actual summation of just how tonally inconsistent and stupid this episode is. 10 minutes ago, we were talking about a load of 1,000 children dying of heat of cold, and 10 minutes later, we're talking about sending an alien race a box of Chinese finger traps. And I'm just like, no one looked at the script. No one edited this. No, you didn't care. You just threw it together. You made talented actors say you're garbage. You filmed it, and then you put it on TV, and you expected someone to give you any kind of props for it. And like, no, I am stunned this show got another season, let alone spawned 18 different spin-offs and a load of video games. Just doesn't make sense. Really should have been cancelled.
Critical thought.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just so much cocaine being done in that writing room. So much cocaine.
As an actor from the Royal Shakespeare Company.
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart also took this
Made
job.
him do this.
Also took this job for a quick bit of cash and then to fly back out to England. He was surprised it lasted as long as it did. Everyone told him not
that
to take
story
it.
he tells.
Yeah.
That story he tells about not unpacking his luggage for a year. Guess what? When you were coming back from filming dailies for this, I fucking understand. God.
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart, one of the greatest living actors of his generation. Like he's played freaking Claudius in Macbeth. He's he's been in Dune. He's been in every Shakespearean production under the sun. He is Professor Charles Xavier, the coolest fucking guy in the goddamn world. And you made him do this? Really? Disrespectful, actually. Idle, best and worst.
Best and worst. So, a serious best answer, I will give it, and this is the only point I'm giving this for this episode, is at the very start when you see the Ferengi ship, there is a moment where you're like, okay, we're going to get a tense chase episode here, there's going to be some shenanigans going on, and it turns around, and there's this unique design, there's a little bit of a nice space shot as you're looking underneath it. As goofy as the Ferengi ship is, I'm not too keen on it. They did play it as a little bit menacing, which is probably the only good thing they did this episode. That's my best moment, and I will give it that for that being called
valid.
Worst moment. Oh no, I tell you what the worst moment is. What the fuck was with the camera angles when they're talking to the Ferengi on the Enterprise? At one point, you've got the Ferengi's face, yeah, exactly like that, zoomed in right close to the face, and it's not just it zoomed in, but Picard is standing right in the middle of the frame with the back of his head there. It's ridiculous. It's
Your alien images wants to get shot.
It's baffling. Someone, a cameraman, was just looking at this going, you want this shot? It's like, you really want this shot?
That's a good episode.
Picard's head is out of frame, and this man, you can only see his eye and one nostril. Like,
there's the bit where you just see teeth.
You do just see teeth. It's like, we really want to show off these prosthetics. We spent a lot on this, you know, and no white background.
Not on the writer. We didn't spend shit on the writer.
No, this was the. I wonder what he's doing. I'm gonna have
Hair
to
and makeup department carried this episode.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to IMDb the writer very quickly because I need to know what else he's done.
And he never worked in Hollywood again.
Imagine if this is the only credit.
Oh my god. I'd rather have written nothing than have written The Last Outpost.
Oh no, he has written 5 things. He's written a story for The Incredible Hulk in 1980, The Twilight Zone, an episode of in 1985. I don't know what episode he wrote. An episode for 1989 War of the Worlds. An episode for the TV movie of Sweden Nordic Treasure, and then he stopped in 1991.
Wow, he stopped 4 years after this episode. He stopped 4 years too late.
He's also the author and illustrator of the book The Writer at Work, a compilation of syndicated comics that mix the working world of Dilbert with the absurdity of the Far Side. Oh, he's got a website. Oh no, it's shut down. It's no longer a thing. So there we go. A short-lived career. I hope he does well. I hope he's found his true calling, something he's actually good at, because that would be fantastic.
Yes.
He's probably a dentist, because that's the only occupation that could cause more pain than writing this episode.
Wow, excellent. Okay, how about we cull this one off and we go through to our rating. Please, stars, you must have so much to pick from. What is going to be the official how many out of what of 10 for this week?
Racing, how many river dancing Ferengi out of 10 would you like to give this?
I see.
Someone who is part Irish, that is an offence to river dance.
I don't even think they move their feet.
I am
mostly
offended
hands.
on behalf of Ireland.
Go on then, Racing. What is your how many river dancing Ferengi out of 10 would you give this episode?
Oh god. Like it's not that I don't want to give it any, because shockingly there are worse episodes than this, but not by much. So purely for the AT with the pretty hair, Deanna having the brain cell, and I think Tasha was also right on a couple of occasions that I'm like, will somebody please just put the women in charge?
Yeah, actually.
I will say those 3 badass ladies, a 3 out of 10.
We'll go for 3.
Really? That's generous.
Interesting. Okay, stars. How many river dancing Ferengi would you give this?
So I believe I've mentioned this in the past, and I think it was also a TNG episode in which I said that I can't in good conscience give this episode a positive rating because there is not a positive for Star Trek. It is in fact done negative impact on Star Trek.
That was in fact Code of Honor, which you gave -5.
Yes, because it deserved it. It actively set Star Trek back as a franchise. This is not as bad as that, but I'm still going to give it a -2. This is -2 river dancing Ferengi. It is an active detriment to the franchise that this was allowed to be made. I am...
It's a stain on the spandex uniform.
It actually is. Guess what? This episode did more damage to Patrick Stewart than that uniform, and that's saying a lot considering the fact they had to go and see a chiropractor for it.
Indeed. I think we all need to see a mental chiropractor after this.
Just get pushed over a bin like in Simpsons.
Or just hang upside down for a bit like Geordie does.
Yes.
For no
Oh god.
Someone...
if only I could be unconscious like Geordie LaForge.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was
just
that
like,
bit...
are you conscious? Unfortunately, yes.
Another bad moment.
Well, why do you look dead? Why aren't you saying anything?
But we all get hit by the energy whips, and they all do, like, even Riker does the worst kind of falling unconscious death, like... and he literally bites the dust. Only time I've ever seen someone literally bite the dust in a show.
Yeah, I bet you it hurt Jonathan Frakes to do that. I bet you it hurt. Idle. How many river dancing Ferengi? I'm
going to give it, because I've never given anything. I didn't give Code of Honor a negative score, and I can't rate this lower than that, so I'm going to give it a 1. A pure 1 for how foreboding that Ferengi ship was at the start. And that's it. This was objectively a terrible. Sorry, frog in my throat. It's so emotional. It's bringing me. So our average for this episode is a 0.7. It didn't even make a point.
Yeah,
0.7.
dragging that score down.
Which, yes, the overall Star Trek score has gone from a 5.8 now to a 5.7. Star Trek is now rated currently at 5.7.
It'll pick up.
It will pick up. We'll pick up. The next
Eventually.
TNG one we've got is Where No One Has Gone Before, which
that's a
is
good one.
not bad. I remember it
I
being
like that one actually.
fairly okay.
Considering what has come before it.
Yeah, actually, yeah. No, there's an actual idea going on in that episode rather than this.
There was a concept that was
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, precisely.
Stuff happened.
And then we've got the
This
Lorelei
episode shit the bed so that Where No One Has Gone Before could be competent.
It crashed so the Traveller could fly, something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we need to stop.
You know what? The Traveller has more charisma than the Ferengi in this episode.
It's very
Oh
true.
god, that's saying something.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Racing, for joining us. It's been
Always
absolute
a pleasure.
Absolute
For
pleasure to
having
have you for
me.
this
Thank you.
last couple of weeks. So, cheers. We'll get back on soon. For everyone else, keep an eye on the channel. We will see you soon. Live long and prosper. Ta-ra. And Ferengi Breakdance out.